sometime in the next several months. I think that's the only question that came to me in Emerita as far as I recall. So thank you very much.
Hello, you want to add on what David said? Emerita, if you can unmute yourself, just respond to questions addressed to you.
No, that's quite complete, and David has addressed it very properly. But to share with the rest of the team, the other comment that I had on the chat from Patrick on whether we have accounted for. So the question was whether we have accounted for, any other kind of shocks, such as the drought shock, in addition to the COVID pandemic in the analysis. And for the sake of sharing, so we haven't done that. We have only focused on the COVID pandemic. But in my response to Patrick as well, what I indicated was it's not only drought that was hitting Eastern Africa the past year. It's also locust, and there are some needs from policymakers to assess to bring these three shocks together and do analysis of the joint impact of the triple shocks, drought, COVID, and locust together. And if time permits, probably we'll start to bring in these joint shocks in addition to the COVID pandemic, as well as the response measures the countries have been doing in the economic impact analysis. So just to simply share this with the broader audience. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. IT, please. Now I'm told Vedas is online. Claude, can you see Vedas? There is someone called Teach, I think is the one. You can unmute him. Okay, for the interest of time, let us start with the colleagues online. We can start with Dr. Fidel. Yes. React on the question addressed to you. It's not working? Yes. Please, IT people who are on the mixer, make sure the microphones are open.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Charles.
Volume, please.
Dr. Charles has three questions regarding my topic, digital solution for economic resilience. So the first one was he was asking more explanation, I think, regarding the graphs that I have presented. So the graphs I have presented. So it was about the number of subscriber and the number of transaction on mobile banking. This is the first graphs, where it shows how the number of subscriber and the number of transaction in mobile banking has increased from the period of 2018 up to 2020. So the second graph, it was also about the number of subscribers and the number of transactions regarding the internet banking. So also you have seen that the subscriber on mobile and on internet banking were increasing, but at the same time, the transaction for the same period, 2018, 2020, the number of transactions on internet banking has decreased. The third graphs, it was about subscribers and the number of subscribers and the number of mobile banking. So we have seen that both numbers has increased at a very high rate. So the following graphs in pie, it was showing the value of transaction, whether for mobile banking or internet banking or mobile banking. So all of those three type of operations increased at that period from 2018 to 2020, especially on the period of COVID, for the first quarter of 2020. This was the result of our analysis. So regarding the digital economies, as I explained, there are many components of digital economies. So like blockchains, artificial intelligence, and so on. But here in our country, some of those technologies, I cannot say that they are not there, but they are there at a very small proportion. They are very, very little. So we focus mainly on the e-commerce and e-payment only. And about the challenges, of course, we encountered challenges regarding Okay, for the last question regarding SG, how the Africa continent is ready to the fourth revolution, information revolution, how the Africa is ready to tackle this challenge. Of course, I may say that Africa, I cannot say that we are not ready, but the Africa, of course, has a long way to go because there is a lot of things which are lacking. They are lacking behind anyway, compared to other continents. We are lagging behind in terms of infrastructure, in terms of skills. We have little people who have skills in this area. And of course, if you want to compete with the global market, any country which is willing to compete, to position itself in the global market, it should, of course, reinforce. It should put more effort on being on the board. And for this, you should have an infrastructure anyway. Should have an infrastructure which are very solid, strong, people who are well skilled, so that we can compete in the world. This is what I can say. Thank you.
Dr. Daniel, do you want to react on
Thank you very much. Microphone is very
No, it's not. Sorry, COVID measures, but it's fine. Okay.
Don't change.
We have sanitizer in this room, that's fine.
Sorry.
Please, can we get sanitizer? Actually, it is not allowed to share microphones.
sorry.
that's fine.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. I will begin with the question from my friend who asked why did I use ANOVA and I didn't use regression. One, I can answer, maybe provide two answers. One is the type of the data. The type of the data could not maybe allow the regression. And the other part, I think he also mentioned about the groups. I had three groups. Three groups, that is students in town, students in rural areas, and students in Kigali city, and which can permit to use an ANOVA test. You have talked something which I also didn't think about when I was analyzing the capacity of the institutions, which I didn't test. I didn't test the capacity of different students, of different institutions to adapt to this online learning. Then another question is from Dr. Chaz, who was asking me, we covered all the institutions. We have got 30 universities in Rwanda. So we covered all the institutions in Rwanda, all the 30 high learning institutions. Then the other issue you are saying, the issue is what do you recommend? Should we, I think I can also talk about with Jonas, I think, which is also looking at that. What should we go? Should we move from face-to-face online, or we should continue? As I've already indicated, we still have some steps. It would be right to say that we can now move from face-to-face and start online. We still lack a lot of infrastructures. What we can do, we can run a blended, and the blended should be balanced maybe in such a way that maybe like 70% should still be face-to-face, and maybe 30% should be online. And another thing, as you look in my recommendation, I said high learning institutions have to change their investment model. In many years or in the past, they have been investing in physical assets. It is now high time to start investing in technology, such that they can be able to adapt to these new trends of the technology. I can give an example like a SCCA or these other international organizations. You can do an exam where you are, but here it is impossible. You cannot do an exam where you are. You have to come, even if you study online, then you have to come to the institution to do an exam. So we still need to invest too much in the infrastructure to be able to shift from the face-to-face to online. But we should now learning them both, or we can do what we call the blended learning. We also need to change, or maybe to change the mentality of the students. That is still another steps that we need to look at, the culture of the students, such that they can know that studying is only not in class, but study can also take place anywhere. So I think those are some of the positive impact. Yes, I mentioned about the positive impact. Yes, it's a question from Dr. Charles. I mentioned about the positive impact. As I said, this shift from face-to-face to online has helped or has made some positive impact, like independent learning. You know, we are having a problem of the learning culture. Students don't want to study. But because you now have the online, they can study alone, or what we call the independent learning. Also, improvement in the technological skills as a result of this movement from the face-to-face to online. I think those are the comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel, for reacting on the question. Can you join me to thank our panelists?
I still have
Dr.
to say
Philip,
something.
Dr. Daniel, Emerita, and Vedast, who are online. Thank you very much for presentation and the answers to the questions. Now, this is the time
I
allow
did
me
not
to
answer.
have EPRN presenting, Mr. Eve, can come forward, presenting summarized recommendations from what we discussed in the morning. From the morning up to now, they try to summarize key recommendations from papers and from discussions. We have in this conference people who are in DRC, Switzerland, US, who are still with us online. They gave some comments. So can you take my microphone and summarize the recommendations? Can I use this one? That's fine, you can use that one. Okay. IT person, please share the screen on the presentation. IT person, can you share the screen on the machine? We want to have quick recommendations before we have closing remarks. This one.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. These are some of the key recommendations that came out of this conference, very fruitful deliberations, and very good insights from all the presenters. These are some the draft recommendations. Of course, we're going to go back and make sure that it is included in a report and it is well captured. One, government to work with civil society and community-based organizations to identify the dissemination of eligibility to access the ERF to benefit SMEs at grassroots level, especially women-based. This could also be done through awareness via vernacular, rural-based radio, TV, bulk SMS messaging. Two, all stakeholders should adopt gender lens in planning for economic recovery for COVID-19 impact with tailored solutions and support. Recommendation number 3, all economic players should take full advantage of the current shift to digitalization opportunities in the country and beyond. Government and partners to put efforts in infrastructure and community capacity building. Recommendation number 4, government should focus on formalizing SMEs. A more befitting definition is needed for informal and work to increase demand awareness on ERF to build resilience in the informal sector. Number 5, EPRN should work towards conducting an in-depth research on informal sector for consideration towards the revision of the definition of informal sector in the Rwandan context. Recommendation number 6, there is a need for a policy strike between economic policy and health policies. Recommendation number 7, there is a need to intensify transfer of knowledge and agriculture practices to build farmers' resilience to extend shocks, in brackets, organic farming, as well as agroecology. Recommendation number 8, education institutions should revise the investment model from physical assets to technology. This has been emphasized by various presenters. Recommendation number 9, institutionalize economic impact analysis and tools that deepen quantitative policy analysis to assess shocks and policy responses and develop tools for analyzing employment, income, distribution impact of shocks and policy responses. Recommendation number 10, enhance coordination mechanisms and consolidate agricultural produce, especially in view of the cross-border trade. The last recommendation, gradually reduce overdependence on natural capital and move to a knowledge-based, market-oriented agriculture, aggressive conservation, reforestation, develop sustainable, built, and human capital. I think these are some of the recommendations that we take home from this conference. Thank you.
You don't want to give applause to the Secretariat. Thank you for summarizing. Thank you very much, Eve and your colleagues. Now, as you mentioned, they are still draft, but we will continue improving them. We will even send to participants and the concerned institutions. Usually we send them to ministries, DPs, and other partners to see how we can implement them, not just keep them in our machines. Without taking much of the time, I want to thank you. Yes, Aris? Microphone. Yes, I think if there is a recommendation I want to comment on, it's fine. The comment.
Yes. Did I hear anything around agriculture financing?
If, microphone. If it is not there, you add it.
If it's not there, we need to add it because we clearly said it's critical, it employs majority of the Rwandans, and this sector needs to be financed. And for me, especially financing value chains and small enterprises in agriculture sector will be a game changer. Supporting aggregators to have those cold chains, to have ways to store, to be resilient indeed to those shocks will be helpful. I also didn't hear something around mobile banking. Did you? Yeah, so digitalization. Oh, I think it was mentioned in the education sector, but
it is there, that one is there. Maybe
only
not
for
exactly,
education.
but
Mobile banking is about circles, yeah? It's for them to also be able to be literate about that and utilize them, not just for education. Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Aris. I think those ones she added are crucial. If you think there is another recommendation from what we discussed which is not there, you can just give the secretariat to take note. Someone in the room wants to add the key recommendation? All right. We can even share on emails. You can just feel free to add it to edit. We will send it to your emails because I hope we have all your emails. Aris?
Question. I think it's been a very good and fruitful deliberation, discussions that we believe will go somewhere. Do we have a mechanism of monitoring to make sure that our many hours spent here, these recommendations can indeed inform locally, regionally, globally as per the objectives in shaping the policies for enhancing productive capacities?
Thank you. We have
we get feedback on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aris. This actually the board. We have the president of the board here. We established a research committee, and that research committee of EPRN. One of the mandates is this: to see the research conference recommendations and monitor how they are being implemented. We have Mr. Andrew from UNECA is part of the committee. We have Faustin Gashesha, doctor was here. We have Amina and Claudine ICR. So we have that mechanism at EPRN to follow up, monitor, make sure recommendations are being implemented. Thank you. So allow me, yes, before we have other people. Alan?
Just one more thing. I think you have hesitated to put any recommendation on the amount of financing the government actually needs to do these things. A number of things are listed also today. I mean, the fact is that with the size of the shock coming to the economy, it's something like 8% compared to the baseline, or 10%. It's huge. And yet the government, and we showed it this morning, is only able to inject maybe 2 to 3% points of GDP in the economy. And this is clearly insufficient to stave off a crisis. So the financing remains the main bottleneck for the government of Rwanda to do the things that it needs to do, because 2.5 percentage point is just not enough. I mean, the US has 15 percentage point of GDP. So that is something that needs to be addressed. The financing for both the government but also the private sector. When things dry up, flows suddenly stop, what do you do?
I can see they are taking note and we react more on that.
I would like to
yes.
suggest, not only for the government of Rwanda, and since we are talking also regionally and we've seen the impacts on the region, I think the AU or the governments in the region need to really work together to see how best to support the economies to recover, because we are making too many demands on them, but realistically, there is also a challenge on financing. Our recommendation as Oxfam is really debt cancellation. Our recommendation when it comes to recovery, we didn't talk about the issues of vaccine, but it is a people's vaccine and it should be accessed by all. It doesn't need a passport to get COVID. You don't need it to cross the border. So they need to, in solidarity, come together and position themselves to really make sure that they're putting lives first. And I think if people have conscience, we know the G7 is and they need to do something about it. Cancel the date so that you can be able to put resources to those productive capacities as needed.
Cancel date or reduce, I don't know, I'm not an economist. We are with advisor and Minikofin, maybe in his closing remarks we'll talk on it. Do you have another one, another recommendation which is pertinent, which is not mentioned? Thank you very much. Once we send your email, feel free to add, to comment, because it's still a draft, before we have really concise, final, concrete recommendations. Allow me to welcome our legal representative, President of the body, Dr. Charis, to who will welcome our guest of honor from Minikofin to close this conference. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And now I think we can say good afternoon. I don't want to come on the recommendations. I was talking to set on recommendations because we need to have the recommendation based on the fundings. I was thinking on the possibility of asking the research team to send at least one recommendation from their fundings and to send it to the Secretariat. So our recommendations will be based on the fundings, and we'll be able to explain it to the international and the policy makers. That will be one of the options. I think you have the email of SETI, or even members in this room and online can still share one or two recommendations to the Secretariat, so we can have the document with really documented recommendations. That is what I can add on the last presentation. So time is not on our side. I don't want to take more your time. I just want to say thank you very much for your time. We have been here from the morning up to now. It is almost, it is around 5. And others have been following online, and it is also very hard to take the whole day for online conference, but they managed to stay with us. Yeah, what I can say on behalf of EPRN, Board of Directors and the Secretariat, we say thank you very much for your time, contributions, and we assure you that the recommendations will be considered. And we work, EPRN is a network. We work with international partners, but also the government of Rwanda. So we'll see how the recommendations can be disseminated and be implemented. And what I can say to the advisor from the Ministry of Finance and Economic, we have been here from the morning. We have many papers presented, and what I can summarize and what we have two kind of fundings. We have the paper with clear picture on what is going on and how the COVID has affected the economy of Rwanda, of the region, different countries. So we have a really, from the beginning, very good picture on the effect for each sector. That is there. The second, we have also papers with fundings and even more with recommendations. So that is the two type of research have been conducted and presented in this conference. Very clear picture on what is going on the economic side, and some fundings and recommendations. So we'll have time to share the papers presented, but also the summary in policy recommendations. Yeah, we are at the end of this conference, one-day conference. I don't want to take more time. I just want to welcome the advisor of the Ministry of Finance and Economic for the closing remarks for this 7th annual EPRN annual conference. You are welcome.
So thank you very much, Chairman of the Board, for giving me the floor. Again, I didn't expect to be answering questions during the closing remarks, actually. Yeah, so it's a good one, that one. But anyway, I will try to keep my closing remarks quite short. So I can see the DG Planning from the Minister of Trade representing Minister of Trade herself, Director Division for Africa, LDCs and Special Program are UNCTAD, Program Director Decentralization, Good Governance are GIZ, Chief Cluster for Regional Integration, Eastern Africa Office, UNECA here in Kigali, Program Leader, Rwanda Strategy Support Program, IFPRI, Senior Economic Advisor, UNDP, Rwanda Office, Country Director, Oxfam, Rwanda Office, all researchers, members and friends of EPRN, all the participants present physically or virtually. Allow me to greet you. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. I should say it is both a pleasure and an honor to be delivering closing remarks on behalf and in place of Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Uziel Ndagijimana. He couldn't come himself for a specific reason. As you may know, the President of France is in town and all the ministers are actually part of the delegation of the President. So he asked me to give the closing remarks on his behalf. And he also, in the discussions we had right now, he called me, told me that I can actually say that he personally supports this kind of initiative. And this is the 7th annual conference of EPRN. And he really wants to thank EPRN for organizing year after years this kind of conferences, but also especially this one. This one is on economic measures to build productive capacity post-COVID, and this is a very timely conference and very relevant topics that have been researched and presented here today. So apart from thanking EPRN, I really want to thank also the researchers, of course the researchers that conducted all this research and that presented today with the findings and the recommendations. Again, we will not be able to implement all recommendations. I'm not going to give a blank check to all the recommendations that have been presented today, but we will look. What I can say is we will look at them, we will analyze them, and we will see what we can implement directly, what will require medium term, and what maybe we will not be able to implement. So I really want, and I see that from you, the small interventions that I've seen now, I see that you really had fruitful discussions and interesting deliberations. So looking at, I also want to thank the partners, of course the partners, and I'm talking about all partners. GIZ has been with us all the time from really the creation of EPRN and maybe a little before. I really want to thank UNCTAD also for their support in organizing this conference, same as UNDP, IFPRI, Oxfam, UNECA. I was saying GIZ has been with us, especially with EPRN, but truth is UNCTAD, UNDP, IFPRI, Oxfam, UNECA have been with us forever. They've been with us forever, and especially supporting research. So it's not, I thank you for this conference, having partnered with us and with EPRN to organize this conference, but also I should say for your support to research all over this time. So before I really end these remarks, maybe since people were talking about the problems of financing, actually was in an economic symposium yesterday, and truth is, I was telling people that the impact of COVID is huge, that's true. Aaron was saying around 10%. It's really that. So it's actually around a third of our budget. Yeah? So it means only here in Rwanda, we would need something as $1 billion. We are not going to, at least I don't see where it's going to come from. Yeah? For the time being, I don't see yet where it's going to come from. One of the things is I've been participating, so I was saying yesterday I was with in an economic symposium. I've been part of the G20 discussions where we negotiate some of these things about how do we react. As you know, Rwanda represents the NEPAD, so we are invited normally to these G20 meetings. And to say the truth, we all were caught unprepared. Yeah? The first thing, we really were unprepared. Now, the thing is, we were unprepared for the first wave when the pandemic came. But it looks like we were also unprepared for the second wave. And now people are talking about a third wave. So are we prepared for the third one? The other thing is, people have been talking about working together, early warning signals, coordination. But you know, look at the region. I think Oxfam was actually raising the issue of coordination. We should work together as a region because we all have been hurt. It's true. But remember when the COVID happened, and it is still around. But what did you see? Were we coordinated even in the way we reacted? And people yesterday were telling me, no, but maybe if we had early warning signals, systems, we could have seen it coming and we would have reacted. I doubt it. I will tell you the truth. Sometimes we make decisions at the time when, I remember, March last year, when Rwanda made the decision for the first lockdown, our first consideration was the lives of people. Lives of people, looking at what was happening at the time in Europe, in America, in Asia, we said, first thing, we save life. Health before economy, which is not the choice of everybody, which is not and was not the choice of all the countries. And you can't, whatever the signals you get, it's very difficult to convince people that the worst is coming. You see, yesterday I was telling people, I was actually in Rubavu yesterday, telling people, look, do you feel the tremor? Why are we still here? At this point in time, why are we still here? You know, there's research that says that when the volcano meets the gas in Lake Kivu, Goma and Gisenyi may disappear from the map of the world. There's research saying that. Why are we still here? Because we can't believe in the worst happening. You know why? We have plans for tomorrow and we don't want to believe that the worst is coming. So it means in March, when we decided the lockdown, could Burundi decide the lockdown? Very difficult. They had presidential campaign coming. For them, that was more important than having a lockdown. So they were just hoping that COVID will not have the consequences that we are seeing in Europe, in Asia, in America. Of course, afterwards, 1 year later, we can say COVID in Africa was, as an economic crisis, yes, but as a health crisis, it has not been as bad as it has been elsewhere. But we couldn't know. That was just hoping and praying. Tanzania was not ready to do that. DSU was not ready to do that. So it's, you know, coordination is about also sharing the same understanding. It's not only about getting the signs. So it's a little more, and when I say I'm part of the meetings of G20, sometimes the discussions I follow, and I'm like, yeah, the situation has changed. The words may have changed because of COVID-19, but do people, and you are talking about solidarity, do people and do nations change as fast as the situation? I do not believe that. I'm not sure of that. It's, you know, because we have seen the COVID. We have seen it, but the truth is, it takes time, you know? Sometimes I get very impatient in these meetings. I'm like, what am I doing here? You know, doing 2 days from morning to night, discussing things, discussing a small word. No, I don't want to see this word there. You can't put that word. I'm saying people are dying. We are actually discussing one word or one sentence. How many lives do we save with that? How many vaccines do we get with that? You see, it's, but at a certain point in time, you say, I haven't seen people change that much. I haven't seen nations change that much. No, so it's, I just want to say, recommendations, good, but we shouldn't, and at a certain point in time, when you do research, you may want to focus some of the recommendations on what is it that you can do to change the situation. You need first to change yourself. As a nation, Rwanda needs to change. After COVID-19, we need to come to a point where we say, Rwanda has changed because of COVID-19, and we are going to do things differently. So it means the fiscal space is reduced, tax revenue are reduced, but then we need to spend a lot better. The income of citizens is reduced, but it means they need to spend a lot better. They need to be a lot more productive. Of course, the international community, the neighbors will help, will work with us, but you need to, you know, if you want to be influential, you need to become influential. You know? So it actually means some work you need to do on yourself, a lot of work to do on yourself to be able to increase your sphere of influence. You know? And I think President Paul Kagame has been giving us a very good example of that. Today, President of France, not only in the, I'm saying today, but even before today, he has given us very good examples of that, you know, sometimes it starts with you. Some of you may remember the Africa Financing Summit in France a few days ago, where he was announcing that his objective is actually to get at least reallocation of the SDR to the tune of 100 billions, which would be a very good thing, because up to now, out of the 650 billion of allocation of SDRs that the IMF is going to issue, Africa only gets 33 billion. So if we get 100 billion reallocation from the G7 and the G20 countries, that would be really, this is 3 times what we are supposed to get only from the general allocation. And that could be, that could go a very, very, you know, long way towards helping us finance some of the reforms that we need to undertake. So I will not take too much time. I will thank you again, thank all the participants from Rwanda or from abroad for the discussion and for the useful insights. So thank you and good evening.